What's going on, guys? Welcome. Friday afternoon. Just chatting, maybe doing a little bit of writing. It's a shitty rainy day here in Montreal. Kids are off. They have a ped day, which for us means that they're home, no school. And they had Friday, Monday, now Friday, Monday off again. So pretty much half the time they're not even at school. But I'm here, just chilling, big chilling. Showing off more swag, the Drake merch. Thanks again to everybody who dropped some coin and picked up their favorite characters' merchandise. Like I said yesterday, I'm gonna do a little bit of maybe for the holidays. I'm gonna do a limited time run of some new merch, and when that goes down, I'll let you know. If you weren't here yesterday. You could change the lights. So we're the lights behind me. You can control those if y'all want. Just put an exclamation point and then the color, and that'll change it to what you want. So you can do like red. Cool. Didn't work. Man, what is going on today? I was trying to get my keys worked here so I could switch over by just clicking a key. It's not working. We got some technical difficulties as usual. But I'm here chatting with you guys. How are you guys doing? Any big plans for the weekend? Any plans at all? I know most of the shit's locked down, but maybe some Zooms. Zoom with friends. I'm thinking I'm going to have a Zoom with some of my hockey buddies I haven't seen for a while. I played hockey with the same group of guys for about 15 years, and over time, people come and go. They move back or out of the city, move to other cities, and then every year we always get together for a hockey tournament once a year in Ottawa, and that's in March. Problem is, of course, it was canceled this year. So I think I might do that with some buddies, get on a Zoom call, say hello, have maybe some apple juice. Big chillin', really. What about you guys? Any big plans? Still trying to get the lights to work for me. They were working yesterday. Ah, okay. What's up, Johnny? Thanks for the like. At least they're flashing when you hit the likes. I'm on like my 12th coffee. Lots of burps, promise. I wasn't planning on doing too much writing today, but I think I might do a couple chapters. Yesterday we left off. Chase was finally back with Floyd. She decided to take the case after all. Horsejaw donated. Yeah, thank you very much for the donations, guys. If you're enjoying the streams, if they're entertaining you for a couple hours while you're working or you're just big chilling at home, there is a donation link in the description, and you can smash that if you want. You know, it's always appreciated. Not required, of course. Thanks, man. This is obviously the Thrilligan gear. I'm digging it. I'm digging it. Thanks, Trevor. Thanks for the like, my big man. Let's go. Let's do a little writing today. I feel like some sort of like some sort of dolphin pushing this forward, but that's what happened today. Like my mic was sagging, nothing was working. The buttons aren't working on my keyboard to switch scenes. Sounds are working, but I'm here. What's up, Lisa? Thanks for joining. Thanks for liking. Yeah, so as I was saying, guys, we were getting deep into adverse effects. We're 35,000 words deep, so I don't know, roughly halfway. Maybe not even though, about a third of the way. I think it's gonna be a bit longer, judging on the pace. We had Chase finally join the crew in New York, join Floyd and Detective Dunbar. We met up with Screech. She knows that there's some problems there with Drake, but she hasn't investigated that. And then she also they also found out what the text was, and that's where I left you guys yesterday. The text that the girls got before they commit suicide. Right before they committed suicide, they held their they looked at their phones, and then they jumped into the subway track. So we're about to find out what it is. I left you guys with a epic cliffhanger yesterday, and I'll clean it up. You guys are gonna be pissed. I know it. Everyone else is just joining. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Make sure you hit that like button and the follow, and then it should work if you do the exclamation point notify. But nothing's really working today, so I don't know. Could try these commands in here. Yeah. Hit the bell. Hit the bell. I asked before what everyone's plans are for this weekend. Anybody got some plans this weekend? Before we get going, just do a little chat session. Anything fun? Hopefully it doesn't rain all weekend and you can get out with the kids. We went hiking last weekend on the mountain. We have this small mountain here. It's really a big hill, to be honest, but we call it a mountain here in Montreal. We like to go hiking there. Get the kids out, get them some fresh air, because before you know it, it's going to be minus 30 Celsius. I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit. What's up, Bobby? So, yeah, we got to get out while we can. I don't remember if I put music on yesterday. No, I didn't. For those of you who are new, I'm always listening to music while I write. Normally it's not the beats you hear right now, but obviously I can't do any copyrighted shit, so spending time with granddaughter. Oh, nice. And you're on Cause of Death. Yeah, that was one of my favorites. Just wait till you get to. I think the Drake series really takes off around book 3 with Download Murder, and just after Download Murder, because that's when. Well, I'm not going to spoil it for you, but that's when Chase's character really starts to grow. I was looking at the books the other day because I stacked them up here behind me. I don't know if you could see. But the stack here right underneath the light, and then on the other side, here underneath the light. And I was stacking them all up, and I was trying to think of what happened in the books. It was impossible. Literally, it was impossible. Like I have a general idea of what happened in each one, but For instance, I can't remember what happened with Drug Lord 1 versus Drug Lord 2. I think Drug Lord 1 takes place locally, and then 2 is mostly in Colombia. But yeah, no, and Beckett's books, man, I cannot remember. Everything just blurs together with his series. It's all a bunch of craziness. So when people always say like, "Oh, do you remember this part of Georgina's story or Amber Alert?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, of course, I remember that part. I remember writing that. I was sitting there, I was sweating, I was just nervous. I mean, I was doing a 12-hour session of pure writing, but it's all lies. I don't remember. I don't remember every little detail. You guys probably remember more than I do. Well, I said this a couple streams ago, but generally what happens is after I finish the book, after it goes to the editors, and after I do a final read through, it goes live, and then I'll review the audiobook, I'll proof the audiobook, and then I'll make like one or two very minor changes, just not story related at all because the book's already been out for a while, but maybe I'll notice like a small echo one paragraph to the next, and I'll change that. But after that's done, I literally let it go. I never read it again, never look at it again, unless of course I have to go back, as you guys have experienced. I have to go back and look up with someone's name or a small detail that I've since forgotten. But yeah, Chase is definitely my best-selling series, so I assume that people love her. But she's also a kind of either love her or you hate her, so she's tough. She doesn't put up with shit. That's what I wanted to accomplish with Chase. I think I was just that book must have come out about 2.5 years ago, the first one, Frozen Stiff, and I think at the time a lot of the female protagonists were just weak and they fit into that stereotypical role. And having 3 young girls of my own, I really wanted to write a character where she is not beholden to like societal rules. She just basically she doesn't put up with shit from anybody, really. She doesn't care who you are, how big, because she's small, right? She's a tiny, tiny human, but she's tough as nails, and that's obviously because of what happened to her. Carol, spoiler alert here, but yeah, so that's her character, and that's what I wanted to write. So, and it really resonated with the fans because that series has sold more. I would go out on a limb here and say that series has sold more than Drake, Beckett, and Tommy combined. For those of you interested, for me, Chase sells the most, then Drake, then Beckett, then Tommy, and there's quite a big drop off from from Drake to Beckett, and then Beckett to Tommy. I mean, it's not really fair because Tommy only has 2 books out, and Beckett's series has 5, but that series is kind of concluded. But I'm putting more effort into Tommy. Like, that's one of my favorite books to write. I love the character. I love the idea. The premise of that series is that you have this guy who literally just tried to do the right thing, tried to help out his brother, and because of that, he got wrapped up in this crazy world he had no idea existed, and his character changes over time after being immersed in it. So I really love that character arc, and I'm going to keep going. The 3rd book in that series, you guys have been asking me, is done. I just need to finish editing it and get it off the editors, but hopefully that will come out as my next book, and then Strawman, and then this book, which is Adverse Effects. Oh. So I got some beats I'll share with you guys. Hold on, just fixing this up. Hopefully you guys can hear a little bit of music now. Someone on Instagram asked what camera I'm using for my live stream. I have 2 cameras. The one that I'm looking at now is an old DSLR, a Canon EOS Rebel T3 that I really don't use anymore because cell phone cameras are so awesome that it's just with a camera like that, if you're not like really into photography, then you have to make a concerted effort of packing it and then taking care of it as you go out. And for me, when I take pictures, actually Ashley takes most of the pictures of the kids, but it's more like dynamic photos. We prefer dynamic photos, so it's much easier and less contrived if you just have your cell phone and snap a picture. So anyways, I had this camera, and Canon developed a really cool new utility software that's free, where basically you can just connect it to your computer with no capture card, and that's what I'm running right now. So I have the Canon EOS Rebel T3 that does this portion of the stream, the one where I'm looking right at you. And previously it was before, but I figured because this camera is so much better, it makes more sense to put it this way. And then when I switch to the live stream, to the one where I'm writing, I have a Logitech C920 or 922 or something. So it's a pretty good webcam, but it's just a webcam, right? So the sensor there is so small, the quality of picture is not nearly as good, the color, blah, blah, blah. So those are two cameras I use, the Canon EOS Rebel T3 and the Logitech C920. What do you mean copy it? Okay. I was actually looking at a different camera to get a better one, but I think this serves a purpose. Matt, thanks for the like, my man. The color thing was not really working earlier. I don't know why, but you got to actually put like exclamation point red. Oh, I got another like. So now it's blanking with the likes, but the color thing was working yesterday and not working today. Vanessa, thank you very much. You still have to finish the Insatiable series, the last 3. Those ones I wrote a long time ago. I have this master plan for all my horror series. So if you're into something really dark, then pick up the Family Values trilogy because that is just nutty. But that series, the Haunted series, and the Insatiable series comes to a conclusion, but there's still like an open window there. Let's say there's some mystery that hasn't been solved. So my idea was to take the 7th book of the Haunted series and bring all the characters together in that 7th book of the Haunted series and do like a massive or 2 to 3 books there and wrap that all up. But so far my focus has been on the thriller books. I'm gonna see if I get those lights working. Matte fuchsia. Nobody knows what that is. I'm telling you, speaking of stereotypes, like men only know the primary colors. They don't know any of the other stuff. Fuchsia, aquamarine. Yeah, the Haunted series. The Haunted series was, I'm going to say, that first book, Shallow Graves, that really convinced me that it was possible to go full time. Amaranth? Isn't that a precious stone or something? You're just listing all of your anniversary gifts you gave your wife there. Let me take a peek, see if I can get this going. Dun, 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 dun. Let's try it now. There you go. Now it's working. Okay, now you can put the colors in. It should work. Yeah, okay, if you guys want to change the color of the lights just for a brief second, all you got to do is put in exclamation point and the color. I don't know what colors work. I only know basic colors, like I said. So, Carol, well, if you've only read a few Insatiable ones and you're on the 2nd Drake book, then I got news for you. You can be doing it for a long time. You got to get caught up. I don't know exactly how many I have out. I just say 50 because it's a round number. I don't know if it's 51 or 48, but it's around that number. So, God, rims in. Get out of here. Someone ban Matt from the chat. Regular colors. Normal colors. Dun, dun, dun. Got these lo-fi beats kicking. The chat's working today too. I'm happy about that. I'm still waiting to see if Twitch will show up there as well as Facebook and YouTube so you guys can see all the comments. But based on how things are going today already, I can assure you it's not going to work. orange. Oh, you can't hear the music? You should be able to hear it now. I thought you'd just be content in listening to my James Earl Jones voice. Oh, listen, speaking of Beckett, I just heard that Dexter is coming back for another season, for like a 10 episode miniseries, and I'm super stoked about that. To be honest with you, I never saw all of the seasons. It kind of petered out towards the end, but the first season of Dexter is one of the best. It still is one of the best seasons of television I've seen. In one of my favorites for sure. What do you guys think about Dexter coming back? I mean, Michael C. Hall, I don't know when the series ended, but must have been about 10 years ago. He's put some miles on him since. I'm excited for it. I'm going to watch it. I think leading up to it, it's not till fall 2021, so leading up to it, I'm going to rewatch all of the Dexters. I recently rewatched Hannibal, the series. I remember the first time I saw it, I thought this is awesome. This is just top tier. It is so graphic. It is so off the wall. And when I watched the first season, I was like, yes, I remember this. This is awesome. I love it. But then I watched the second season. I was like, okay, something's happened here. And the third season is so wacky, over the top. I don't know what the fuck they were thinking. I remember finishing it the first time, this Hannibal, by the way. And I remember thinking, okay, legit, I want them to do a fourth season. But now after rewatching it, I don't know what I was thinking. That third season is just wacky as fuck. Thanks, Drew. Thanks for the like. Yeah, I hope the new Dexter is going to be amazing, Trevor. We'll see. Yeah, everyone hated the ending. Like I said, I didn't see it, but I kind of know what happened. Like, he just goes off, right, to like the rainforest or something. Is that accurate? This is all spoilers, by the way, so earmuffs if you don't want to hear it. But yeah, how else do you end that? I mean, the end of Hannibal, I think the ending of Hannibal was really good. You know, for you guys who haven't watched the series, you got to give it a chance, at least the first season. But the premise is basically that there is a severely autistic FBI agent who has pretty much Chase-like ability to recreate the scene of a crime. And you have Hannibal, who's his psychiatrist for the FBI, and Hannibal starts to groom this man while they're both solving crimes, some of which Hannibal committed. And basically Hannibal is grooming this FBI agent to kill, and it goes like all over the place. But in the end, you have Hannibal and this FBI agent who end up jumping off the cliff together. The FBI agent throws him off the cliff. And I thought that ending was perfect because it really comes full circle where you have the FBI agent finally killed somebody, right? Which was Hannibal was grooming him to do the whole time. And he finally did it, and it happened to be Hannibal, and in the process killed himself as well. So that ending was absolutely perfect. So how you would end the Dexter books, I don't know. Sorry, not the books. I was just reading the comment there. How you would end that show without having him like disappear? No clue. I don't know how you do that. I actually haven't read the books. Kathy, are they very different from the TV series? Yeah, Hannibal is amazing, but that third season is just wacky. There's some scenes like, okay, so the female psychiatrist and Amanda Bloom or whatever, I think her name is Bloom, her last name, she is off the wall. I don't understand why she became a lesbian, started carrying the child of the heir to the pig farm. Like, okay, I know it even sounds more ridiculous when I describe it, but it is pretty wacky. Yeah, so the books are different, Kathy? Better, worse? We had this conversation a while ago. It raised some controversy when my stream title was like, the books are never better than the movie or something like that. It's a different medium. I think a lot of books would never translate well to film because if there's a lot of internal dialogue or introspection, that doesn't really work in film. I'm not a big fan of films with like a narrator, so for me it wouldn't work. Yeah, they're much better. See, I knew it. Everybody who read the books of anything and watched the show or movie, they're always like, that book is better. But listen, I admittedly, so the TV show You, I highly recommend that as well. It's great. There are books on that, and admittedly haven't read them. The reviews of the books are just brutal. So who knows? Who knows? Different mediums, different strokes, right? Oh, people are digging the new setup. Yeah, I think I spend more time setting up the stream than I actually do streaming. I've been listening to a lot of streamers talk and give advice on how to gain more followers, that kind of thing. But and a lot of it is consistency is the key, which is, you know, I'm a master of consistency. I'm here every weekday, exactly 10 a.m. on the nose. So I'm killing it. Oh, I wish I had that shirt. I only have this one on today, but the Beckett Killing It one. Oh, by the way, I don't know if you guys noticed yesterday while I was streaming the adverse effects, but this here, which is, I don't know. Let me get my titty up here. It's oh my God. Okay, whatever. It's a skull with a butterfly and a crown. So, you know, obviously it represents Drake, the Skeleton King, butterfly kisses and that. But it's also it's going to be the logo that Screech actually uses for DSLH investigations. So that's going to come out in a couple books. Drake's not going to like it, of course, but Screech is going to be taking over that. If I'm going to do Instagram Live, you know, like, I don't understand why. So I'm live right now on Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube. But most of you guys, I think, I'm going to look over at the other chat. Yeah, most of you guys are on Facebook. Understandable, right? Like, I've been spending most of my time there. But obviously, Facebook is owned, or Instagram's owned by Facebook. And they recently consolidated the messages, which makes sense. Because it's just such a pain in the ass to get messages on Facebook and then on Instagram, which I only have my phone. So I got to check them both and go back and forth. Now it's all within the app. Within the Facebook app, which I usually use on the computer. So that's great. But why can't I just go live on Facebook and Instagram? Like, I could be live on Instagram right now. I think you have to use your phone for Instagram to go live. Yeah, it'd be a pain in the ass. I don't know if I'm doing any Instagram lives. The books are better, but still like the series. Yeah, you're talking about Dexter. Well, Hannibal was a great book, too. I guess it's The Red Dragon, right? But, yeah, he put out a new one, a new book in the Silence of the Lambs series recently. What is his name? Thomas Harris, I think? Haven't read that one. I'm still, actually, based on your guys' suggestions a couple streams ago, I ended up picking up a whole bunch of books and audiobooks. I haven't started them yet. I've just been doing podcasts. Digging the podcast. I love the structure of podcasts. I love like the current nature of it. I know that it obviously is pre-recorded and mastered and then put out, and obviously, or most of the time they're recorded months in advance. But the idea that like, oh, it just came, online today or yesterday or whatnot, and I can listen to it. I love that kind of current aspect of it, as opposed to an audiobook which might have come out, weeks, months, years ago. If you guys listen to podcasts, what are your favorites? What's up, Mike? Thanks for liking, my man. What are your favorite podcasts? I'm listening to right now. I'm finishing up. I'll see if I can show you here. This one, Two-Face. Actually, it's not called Two-Face. It's called Happy Face. I'm seeing what covered my face. There you go. Yeah, so just look up Happy Face. It's about a woman who her father was the Happy Face killer. It's a true story. Her father's convicted of killing 8 women, and his name's Jesperson, and he's in prison right now. So it's about how she's dealing with that, as an adult, even though he committed these crimes when she was a kid. And she's fearful that she is also has sort of the genetic traits to make her a serial killer. So while it like meanders a lot, it goes here, it goes there. It's a lot about her feelings, appropriately so, I guess. It's about her. It really does some interesting things. There's a guy who does functional MRIs and looks at them, and he can tell the traits of a serial killer, or sorry, of a psychopath, based on the MRI of the person's brain. And I kind of drew this. In some of Beckett's books, it's with the fact that he had okay, spoiler alert, but the tumor and the idea that that can change your behavior and make you act irrationally or in these psychopathic ways. So I used that a little bit. But this guy's real life studies, he has been able to look at MRIs of people's brains or PET scans and say, hey, this person has or lacks the activity of a certain part of your brain responsible for empathy. Look, I'm really just scraping the surface here, but one of the most interesting things is that this guy actually is and considers himself a psychopath, the doctor who does that. He says, my brain, based on all these scales and based on everything that all my subjective responses to questions, I fall into the category of a psychopath. However, he's not a criminal. He's never done anything violent or anything like that. But he does talk about how some of the behaviors that he uses, or that some of his behaviors, period, new paragraph, are indicative of those traits. So yeah, super, super interesting. Highly, highly recommend it. It's always this battle, right? Nature versus nurture. His main theory is that even if you have these tendencies, even if you have this genetic makeup of a psychopath, that in and of itself is not sufficient for you to go out and commit violent crimes. And he's a testament to that because, like I said, he's never done anything violent. There is a period of time when a child is developing that if they're exposed to certain negative influences, and they have these genetic traits, then they can, the possibility of them going on to become a violent criminal is extremely high. Okay, we just got dark. I mean, it's Friday, it's raining. What do you want? Just super, super interesting, though. Check it out. It's called The Happy Face. That's what I'm listening to now. And then my favorites, as usual, are Case File. Case File will always be like number one in my heart. It was like the first true crime that I listened to, the first true crime podcast. He's got like a flat affect, almost like no emotion, and it's more, I want to say, it's less, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm a writer. I should know these words. Less judgmental. It's just basically issuing straightforward facts. And so I like that approach. So that's Case File. And I'll always pimp Case File because years ago, he was doing an ad for Audible, the guy who runs it, the narrator there, and he decided that Butterfly Kisses was one of the books that he was going to promote in that, and that was really big for me. Lots of audiobook sales. Then the other one that I like is Sword and Scale. This one is highly judgmental. The host has no problem with passing judgment on these criminals or victims. Nah, not victims. And also that one focuses a lot on actual 911 audio and audio from police interviews and so on. So it's got a more of a personality vibe to it. So they're a good contrast to each other, but I like both of those ones. And then anything by Wondery, they're a production house. They put out really good quality stuff. And I use a lot of it in my books. I take parts of certain killers and parts of certain victims. I mix them all together in this slurry, and then out comes my own unique character. All right, guys. I think I'm going to do some writing now. You guys have gone quiet. You've got crickets. I need a cricket button. But yeah, type your favorite podcast in the chat if you guys listen to podcasts. If you don't listen to podcasts, man, you guys are missing. You're doing yourself a disservice. They're easy to get. They're free. They're on your phone already. Everyone has an iPhone, and the app is right there. The production value. I remember first listening. That's I said that Case File is one of my favorites, but when I first started listening to it, literally the audio quality was some guy recording it on his Samsung recorder from 1925. Like, the audio quality was poor. The editing wasn't great. The story, again, you listen for the story for sure. So the stories were always good. Audio quality poor. The mixing was bad. There was no kind of any music or sound effects or anything like that. But now, man, they have some legit actors, voice actors doing these podcasts. You're getting super, super high production value. It's a natural progression of things, right? Like these streams, for instance. So initially, when streaming first came out, it would be a guy on his laptop talking with his iPhone headphones and speaking, with no effects, no chat, no alerts, nothing like that, poor lighting. And again, it's really the content that matters, but the package also matters too, right? So the book, to use an analogy, the story in the book is what matters. But no one's going to buy that book if the cover looks like a piece of shit, like it was drawn by a 3-year-old. No offense to 3-year-olds listening. There are, like, the editing is poor. The blurb is boring. I don't know. If the package looks bad, then the reader's expectation is that the book is going to be bad, and that's going to be a turnoff. Everyone says don't judge a book by a cover. Well, I don't understand where that came from. I guess that's good life lesson, but in reality, you're always going to judge a book by its cover because that's the first thing you're going to see. Think about it. You have 2 books in front of you, right? Both with the same title or similar title, similar genre. You don't know anything about the authors, and you see one cover looks like someone did it while they were drunk on MS Paint, and then the other one looks like it was, I don't know, Industrial Light and Magic designed the cover. Which one are you going to look at first? Don't lie. I know which one you're going to pick. And then from there, after you like the cover, you're going to read the back of the book, right? And if the synopsis is terrible, you're going to say, okay, next. If it's intriguing, then you're going to say, oh, okay. And you might scan through it a little bit. You might look at the cover, the first few pages, read those. And then you might go and look at the reviews. Then you look at the reviews, and then if everything jives, you're like, oh, okay, cool. I'm going to spend my whatever a paperback costs. It's expensive, $25 on a book. That's a good thing about Kindle. I mean, it's a mixed bag, right? So what happens is if you get a free book or you get a 99-cent book, like your commitment to that book is extremely low for most people, anyways. And so if your threshold is so low that if you're not captured within the first 2 pages, then it's gone. You're like, delete, whatever, bury it at your TBR pile, on the bottom of your TBR pile, and then move on to the next one. It might be the best book ever, but if you can't get through those first few pages, so that's a tip for you guys out there who are trying to get their writing off the ground. Make sure that you have a wicked hook to start a book. Literally, it has to. You can say, oh, that's cheesy, it's artificial, but that's the reality. If you want to sell books, you got to have an awesome hook. In fact, even before you start the book, when you look at the back of the book, okay, I'm not going to get one, but normally what they have is on the back of the book, you have the synopsis, but it always starts with like a header, and the header is supposed to draw you in. One of the best ones I've ever seen is by Adam Croft, who wrote this headline for it, and I'm gonna butcher it, but it was something along like the lines of, "Would you kill your wife to save your daughter?" And he says that he came up with that line before he even ever thought of the book, because he was thinking about the saleability of the book and the marketing of the book. So he came up with that, and then he decided to write a book based on that. And I think that is an amazing, amazing approach. I haven't gone as far as doing that yet, although I will admit that I've ordered covers and paid for covers, commissioned covers of books. I have no idea what's going to happen. I just thought about a cool idea for one of the covers. Admittedly, these are in the series that are already ongoing, and that has really, I think, helped propel sales. So yeah, so that opening line is super important on the back of the book, and then you can't then just start the book like, it was a rainy day in Pizzaville. No, it's got to be punchy. It's got to be super catchy. And so if you want to sell books, you have to have those first few pages be your best pages. I mean, the rest of the book can't be shit either, but you get what I mean. Yeah, get on the podcast train, Carol. Like it's I think I read somewhere that only 10% of Americans, or some really, really low number of Americans, know about podcasts, and even less listen to them routinely. Guys, I apologize for keep shifting here. I have my chair is on the way, but this one is hurting my back, so I got a new one on the way. It just got delayed. But yeah, the market is just in its infancy, but the growth is huge right now. You're going to see huge name actors doing fiction stories on there, as well as just doing nonfiction like voiceovers. Right now, I would say that without knowing any stats, 95% is nonfiction. It's self-help, it's true crime, huge true crime. It's sports, it's business, it's news, right? And there's a 5% kind of fiction on there. A 5% slice of the pie is just fiction. And if you look at all other media, in terms of books and television, I think the opposite is true, right? Like, the vast majority of the material out there is going to be fiction-based, and the minority is going to be nonfiction. So there will be a swing, I believe, like every media, where they're going to move towards fiction. I have been toying with the idea of doing a fiction-based podcast. So right now it's fairly easy for me to convert. I don't want to say fairly easy because I haven't done it and it's not that easy, but to convert some of these chats I'm having with you, or the chats I have on the after hours with other writers, and also I have some ideas for, like, basically some of the advice I just gave you guys on how to write bestsellers, that sort of thing. That's easy for me to convert to podcast format. Audiobooks that I already produced, I paid my producer for. I think Audible would spank me for it, but in the future going forward, if I'm not exclusive to Amazon or Audible, then it'd be easy for me to take those audiobooks and then put them onto the podcast platform. But what I really want to do is I want to write a fiction-only podcast. It'll be a completely new story with multiple voice actors it'll be like a TV show. So there's no introspection. There are no thoughts. It's just speaking to each other. There are a lot of tricks, too, to make these, what you're missing when you have that. So when you're watching a TV show, they don't often have internal dialogue, like rarely, because you can get a lot of the feelings and emotions of the characters from how they look, how they sound, and from the atmosphere, right? These are obviously tricks that are used often, all the time, in cinema and TV and visual media. But when it comes to a podcast like the one I'm describing, like a pure fiction-based podcast, you lose the element of being able to see the actor. You obviously still have the intonation of the character to give you an idea where their emotional state is, and you can have some sound effects, although these really have to be limited because they can be both distracting and detract from the actual voice acting. So it's very difficult to then portray a person's internal dialogue. Now, there's some really cool tricks to doing this. One of the best ones that I listened to was a person had their own recorder, and they would record like their own diary. So that way it's still the person speaking all the time, but they're kind of talking to themselves in a diary format. Anyways, my point is that I would love to do something like that with multiple actors, and my idea is to get all of my voice actors that have done my audiobooks to come together and voice one of the characters. So Michael Pauly, who does all the Drake books and all of my horror stuff, he's been with me for years. He's fantastic. I have Lainey Pejos, who does Chase. I have Jarrett Lemaster. My God, you're going to kill me. Who does Tommy. And I have, oh my God, what am I doing here? I can't remember my guy who does the Beckett series. Oh, Scott Pollock. Excuse me, Scotty. Scatterbrained. It's Friday. And I want all of them to voice a different character in this new only podcast version or story. That's my idea. There are some obstacles, however, most of which are financial. It just costs so much to put together an audiobook is by far the most expensive part of my business. Putting together an ebook, yeah, covers are expensive. Like my covers are super expensive. The editing, I'm lucky enough to have 2 great editors on staff, or on retainer, I should say, who have been working with me for years. So they also cost money for sure. And then you have all the software and stuff like that, all the overhead. But generally speaking, like you don't have to have all the things. You can get a good cover on Fiverr. You can have editors who will exchange, their services for something that you can do for them. No, not like that, you creeps. More like I can design a cover and you can do my editing, something like that. Or I can do some advertisements for you, something like that. So publishing a book, actually that reminds me, I'm rambling a bit, apologize. But I was on this Facebook group the other day. I just joined it and I immediately left it. Like one of the first comments was something along the lines of, "It's too expensive to." Okay, I think it was more like a question: is it possible to make money on ebooks without mortgaging your home? And then he went on to answer his own question in an obnoxious way, where it was like, no, it's not, because you can't sell books. It costs way too much money, blah, blah, blah. And I'll be truthful with you. I spent a lot of money on advertising and marketing, and that's probably a lot of you guys are here right now because you saw one of my ads on Facebook and you decided to join the group. Obviously, you bought the book. You absolutely loved it. It was the best book ever, whatever one it was of mine. And then you joined the group. And then after you joined the group, you just got involved in the community, which is kind of the way it worked. But a lot of you guys came because of the Facebook ads. So I'll admit that advertising is a good portion, or is very important. But, I mean, you can do it on the cheap, man. You can get it done. You don't have to spend $1 million advertising every single day. So I completely disagree. Yeah, so I left that group right away. It was a Canadian group. It's funny, these Canadian groups, I hate to stereotype, but oftentimes I get messages, their attitude is negative towards success. And I find this even a little bit when it comes to super ultra mega stars in entertainment industry. So outside of myself, of course, but even like people hate on Bieber. Like they hate on him in Canada. I don't really know why. Like he's probably one of the most recognizable artists in the world. Drake, I guess, gets a little bit of a pass, but when Canadians make it to a certain echelon of success, then the Canadian public turns on them. No. Yeah, I was saying something about so just to wrap up that final thought about the ebooks. So an ebook in and of itself doesn't have to be expensive to produce, and it doesn't have to be expensive to be successful either. As you sell more books, then you can afford to go back and re-edit your previous books, that sort of thing. Although I will warn that can be a slippery slope. It's one of the reasons why I don't go back and reread my books after they're done. Is just I could spend literally forever changing things around, and I could do that 50 times, and then I probably would go back to the first iteration and be like, is it really better? No, probably not. Just slightly different. I mean, let's be honest. The saying is perfect. Done is better than perfect, right? It's the 80-20 rule. But in terms of producing an audiobook, it is insanely expensive. And justifiably so, right? So there are ways you can do it where you can do a royalty share with the audiobook producer. So basically you don't pay them anything, but when the book starts to sell, the audiobook, then you split the profits with them. I prefer not to. Actually, I would advise, unless you absolutely have to do it that way, I would always advise against that. I always want to keep all the rights to my books and keep it all for me because I'm a greedy bastard. So they have to put in a lot of time for every hour that of produced audio. So let's say an audiobook is 10 hours. The narrator had to put in 3 times as long to read it, to master it, to get it perfect. So they put in 30 hours of work. So you can imagine how expensive that can be. It can run anywhere from $2,000 to $10,000 to produce one. And Audible doesn't let us set prices for the audiobooks, and that makes it very difficult to run sales. They also have this really fucking stupid rule where you can get an audiobook. I don't even know if I should tell you this. It's like a glitch. This is like a Warzone stim glitch here. Like, you can literally get an audiobook from Audible, and if you don't like it, if you listen to the whole fucking thing and you don't like it, or let's say you do like it, but it wasn't your favorite, or for whatever reason, any reason at all, you can return it within 1 year and get another one. Please, 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 I beg you, don't do this. If you get the audiobook and it is pure trash, I'm talking like the description does not match the book at all, it was supposed to be a horror and it's a romance, or it sounds like the guy like recorded it, you know, in his cave or his dungeon of a basement, then by all means return that book, right? You that's not fair to you. You paid a lot of money for it. But if you got the audiobook and you listened to it, and even though it's not your favorite book, or maybe you didn't even like it, but it lived up to your expectations in terms of quality or whatnot, it was not misrepresented in any way, then don't return that book to get another one. That's horseshit, man. You gotta respect the art. Gotta support us artistes. You know what I mean? That's it. That's the Friday rant with author Patrick Logan. So yeah, so I hope to do one of those in the future. Get on that fiction train. I'll also admit one final caveat about that is writing a book like that would be almost like writing a screenplay. I don't know. Maybe it's the same thing. I don't know. But you wouldn't be able to include things like, man, you know, screenplays have small little descriptions of what's happening. Man walks into the room, stumbles, and then there's dialogue, right? So there's a setting of the scene, just very, very brief. But I don't even know if you would do anything like that. You might do like prompts for the voice actors by saying, yeah, I don't know, Henry is pissed, and then the dialogue, just so that they know exactly how to act, because you're not going to be there coaching them. So it would be a new way of writing for me, and so I'd have to learn that as well. So that's something that I would have taken into consideration. I spoke to a bunch of indie authors who had their books translated into film or into TV, and a lot of them have what I think is a very logical approach where they sell the rights and then they're kind of hands off. I think it's a little bit egotistic of an author to be hands-on, to say something like, well, I want it done exactly this way. I know my book better than you, which admittedly is true. This is the way I want it done. It's completely different media. Why would you think that your skills translate from writing books into producing an actual movie? I don't think it would. It's kind of like, I have this discussion with some of my friends often. We talk about Wayne Gretzky, all right? So a lot of you Americans aren't going to know what I'm talking about here, but I'm going to educate you. So Wayne Gretzky, probably the greatest hockey player of all time. He went into coaching afterwards, but long after his career was done. I don't know. After his career was done, he went into coaching, and I think people just assume that because this guy was a great hockey player, he would make a great coach. But that's clearly not necessarily the case, and that's what happened to him. By all accounts, he was not a very good coach, and that's that, right? His little foray into coaching is done. So I think we assume that because you're good at writing or good at telling a story on print, in print format, then you'd be really good at writing a script or a screenplay or producing a movie. And while it may be true, I just don't think that it's necessarily true like the way that most people assume. Again, a lot of the best coaches are ex-players in most sports, but I think that most of the time the players that make the best coaches, again, just based on what I've seen in terms of good coaches, are the ones that weren't actually the best hockey players. They weren't like supernaturally gifted. They weren't I don't know, 6'5", 250, completely shredded like me. So they had to work super super hard and to be able to get to where they were. So they learned a lot of the nuances of the game, areas where they could cheat a little bit or gain an advantage, and then that maybe translates a little better into coaching. I feel like we're perfectly on topic here, guys. I feel like I'm here right after effects, and I can't even say the title, adverse effects, and I'm right there talking about coaching in the NHL and Wayne Gretzky. So I'm glad you guys could join me today. Well, we're listening to some lo-fi beats, relaxing. Will we even get to writing today? That should be the question. That should be the poll. Who knows? I think we will. We'll get a little bit of work done. Get a little bit of work done. Chatting with chat. It's always great catching up with you guys. I'm going to get to doing a chapter or two. Switch over. So, for those of you on Instagram, okay, I realize you're not here, but those people who asked about the camera, yeah, this is the webcam that I use straight on, and then I use the DSLR for the side. And you could definitely see that this does a good job. Like, this is one of the best value per your buck webcams. It's like $100 in the States, probably way cheaper, and it does a really good job. But like, the color is not there. Even though I've done a lot of work trying to get it to look better, it's not nearly as good as this one. All right, I'm gonna open up my. Okay, top donation is Horsejaw. Love the name. I'm just gonna try and move that over though. I don't know why that moved. Horsejaw. Thanks for the 10 spot. Much appreciated. No. We're an hour deep, guys. Haven't written a single word. New record, I think. All right, as I was saying earlier, we Chapter 27. New paragraph. Open quote. You're kidding. Comma, right? Question mark, close quote. Chase said, as she pushed back from the... Chase said as she pushed herself away from the desk, period. New paragraph. Open quote. I'm not, comma, close quote. Dunbar confirmed, period. His mouth was but a thin line on his pale face, period. Open quote. New paragraph, open quote. Maybe it was deleted, period, close quote. Comma, close quote. Floyd offered, period. New paragraph. Dunbar looked at him. Open quote. It was deleted, comma, but the cell company recovered the message. Semicolon. And the reason why they were so willing to give it up, comma, is because there was no message, period. It was blank, period, close quote in a paragraph. Chase's eyes narrowed, period, in a paragraph. All 4 girls received a blank message that was somehow so insulting that they decided to off themselves, question mark, new paragraph, open quote. Who was it from, question mark, close quote. She asked, comma, drawing herself back into the present moment, period, new paragraph, open quote. They don't know, period, close quote, new paragraph. Chase sighed and looked skyward, period, new paragraph. It was a message from God, comma. She thought, period. She wasn't sure where the thought had come from, comma, given the fact that she wasn't religious by any stretch, period, the paragraph. But that was the only thing that made sense. Open quote. Can you even send a blank message? Question mark, close quote. Floyd asked, period, the paragraph. Chase looked at the man, comma, her brow furrowing, period, the paragraph, open quote. What do you mean? Question mark. Open quote. What do you mean? Question mark, close quote. New paragraph, open quote. What I mean is, comma, I don't think you could even send a blank message, period. Do you mean that it was a bunch of spaces? Question mark, close quote. New paragraph. Dunbar thought about this for a moment before answering, period, new paragraph, open quote. They said that the message contained no data, period. There were no words, comma, and I'll double check, comma, but I don't think that there were spaces, period, because that would be data, comma, small bytes or whatnot, period, close quote, new paragraph. Open quote. Then something's wrong, semicolon. Either the cell company is talking out of their ass, comma, or there's been some sort of mistake, period, close quote. New paragraph. A silence fell over the 3 of them, comma, a silence that was laden with dread, period, new paragraph. They had nothing, comma. Had 5 dead girls, comma, with no leads or insight as to why they would commit suicide, period. All they had was a text to go on, comma, and now that had proven useless as well, period, new paragraph, open quote. Or it was intentional, comma, close quote. Floyd said, comma, breaking the uncomfortable silence, period, new paragraph. Once again, comma, all eyes were on the man, comma, and his gaze drifted down to his feet, period, new paragraph, open quote. For fuck's sakes, comma, Floyd, comma, if you have something to say, just say it, period. We don't have time for these games, period, close quote, new paragraph. Once again, comma, Chase snapped in a way that was both inappropriate and not like her, period, new paragraph. But before she could apologize, comma, Floyd chimed in, period, new paragraph, open quote. I heard about this program that will not only wipe the record of your messages on your phone, comma, but will actually erase it from the cloud database that the cell companies use to hold the information, period. They told us about something like this, comma, some sort of extreme Close quote in the paragraph. Open quote. Where'd you hear about this? Question mark, close quote. Chase asked, comma, her tone deliberately soft, period, new paragraph, open quote. There was this case about a pedophile down in Georgia who was messaging underage girls on one of the social media platforms, period. One of the parents snapped a picture of the messages and sent it to the FBI. Took it to the police, period. They in turn came to us at the FBI, comma, but the problem was when we decided to trace the actual messages, comma, it didn't exist on the man's computer or the victim's, period. It was gone, period. We even did what you did, Dunbar, comma, but instead of petitioning the cell companies, comma, we actually got the social media companies to a court order for the social media companies to open their back end where they host the raw data from the messages, period. We saw that there was data there, comma, but the messages simply didn't exist, period. If it hadn't been for them, the concerned parent taking a screenshot of the conversation on the computer, comma, the man would have gotten away scot-free, period, close quote in the paragraph. Chase shook her head, period. It seemed that Chase shook her head, period. The arms race between the FBI and it seemed that the FBI and other law enforcement were always a step behind in the arms race when it came to any sort of illicit activity that occurred online or behind a computer screen, period, new paragraph, open quote. Well, comma, they confirmed that some data was delivered, comma, just that it didn't exist, comma, close quote, Dunbar said, period, open quote. Maybe that's what happened, period, close quote, new paragraph, open quote. So we're thinking that whoever sent this message, comma, then used a program or whatever to wipe not only their end of the message, comma, but the receiving end as well? Question mark, close quote. Chase asked, period, new paragraph. Floyd shrugged, comma, no longer confident in his explanation, period, new paragraph, open quote. I mean, comma, it's just an idea, period, close quote, new paragraph. Dunbar, comma, on the other hand, comma, had latched on to this notion, period, new paragraph. He snapped a finger and pointed at Floyd, period, new paragraph, open quote. You might be right, period. That's the only thing that really makes sense, period. Someone sent them a message, comma, and then deleted every trace of it after they jumped off the platform, period, close quote, new paragraph. Open quote, which smashed their phones, comma, close quote, Chase remarked, period, new paragraph. Dunbar nodded, period, new paragraph, open quote, which smashed their phones, comma, close quote, he confirmed, period, new paragraph, open quote. Who has access to a program like this? Question mark, close quote, new paragraph, open quote. Most states. After the case that I told you about, comma, the FBI made a petition to allow the FBI put forward a petition to make these sort of programs illegal, period. I don't know what happened to it, comma, but given how slow the government works, comma, I assume it's stuck in stasis somewhere, period, close quote, in the paragraph, open quote. Great, comma, close quote, Chase said under her breath, period, open quote. So it could be anybody, comma, then, period, close quote, in the paragraph. Her eyes drifted down to the desk and at the photos of the young girls, comma, smiling. New paragraph. Open quote. Now we're back at square one, M dash, with nothing to go on, period, close quote, in paragraph, open quote. Maybe, dot, 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 maybe not, period, close quote, in the paragraph. Open quote. What do you mean? Question mark, close quote. Chase asks, comma, once again, surprised by how often Floyd seemed to be speaking up, period. The man might have called her in because he didn't think he was capable of running this case by himself, comma, but whatever confidence he lacked then, now with Chase present, comma, he seemed to have made up for it, period, to paragraph, and he was the only one that was providing any sort of idea of where they might go next, period, to paragraph, open quote. Well, comma, 4 of the cell phones were destroyed, M dash, and their messages wiped, period. What about the 5th one? Question mark, close quote, to paragraph. Chase raised an eyebrow, period, to paragraph, open quote. 5th one? Question mark, close quote, to paragraph. Again, comma, Dunbar snapped his fingers, period, to paragraph, open quote. Sky Derringer, comma, close quote. He said, almost breathlessly, period, to paragraph. Chase's eyes instinctively went from the group of 4 dead girls off to the... Snapped from the group of 4 dead girls to the one on the right, comma, to Sky Derringer, who had committed suicide after the other girls had jumped in front of the subway car, period, to paragraph, open quote. We need to check her cell phone, comma, close quote, Chase said softly, period. Then her eyes shot up and she blazed. Stared at first Leroy Floyd and then Dunbar, period, open quote. We need to check her cell phone, comma, Dunbar, period. We need to check it right now before it gets deleted, period, close quote. All right, guys. What's up, Miranda? Glad you could join. Hopefully you enjoyed that chapter. If you just came right now, you didn't miss much. Well, you missed an hour of chatting. It's always fun to catch up with you guys. Ramble on about books and entertainment for about an hour. But that was my plan all along, to make sure that there was nothing in that text, at least not right now, that they'll be able to recover. Maybe they will recover it in the future. But they're going to go look at what happened with this other girl, with Sky Derringer. My voice is my throat is a little sore. I'm gonna go grab a drink of water, and I'll be back in like maybe 1 or 2 minutes. So hang in there, guys. We're gonna do a couple more chapters, getting in the groove a little bit. Welcome back. Just water. Promise. Just look at the colors you tried to change. Vermilion? Yo, quick reminder, if you guys want to change the color of the lights in the background, all you got to do is put exclamation point and then the color you want. We found out today that only regular colors work, not like vermilion or crimson. But if you want Chase to do something bad, you got to put in red. So now what I'm doing, my plan is now, is for Chase and Floyd to go investigate the death of the fifth girl, the one that happened separate from the others, and to get some insight into what happened there. And then that's gonna push us forward a little bit because maybe they're gonna find out what the text actually is. Yeah, so that's the plan, and we're gonna have Dunbar separate from them, and Dunbar is going to head on over to the hospital because or the morgue, and he's gonna get information about the talk screen on the girls. So that's also gonna be very important. So, it took us like 36,000 words, but now we're kind of getting into the crux of it, of the reasoning, like just some clues as to what happened or why they did what they did. Again, I'm gonna have some not so much a red herring, but a like a broken lead. So when it comes to this girl, they're gonna look at her phone and they're gonna think they have the solution or the what they need to figure out what happened, but they're once again gonna hit a brick wall. Yeah, this definitely this story for Chase is gonna be a lot of banging her head against the wall, and I'm going to my plan, the reason why I'm doing that is because I really want her to struggle with not having her, her special talent, her voodoo, as Stitz called it. What's up, Karen? Welcome back. Thanks for joining. So let's go. Let's work on that. We're gonna do a Chase chapter. I'm debating whether or not to do a Dunbar chapter as he goes to the morgue, but yeah, maybe I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe I'll have him just call and then have Chase visit him. Chapter 28, new paragraph. Dunbar clearly wanted to come along with Floyd and Chase. Open quote. We never visited her, comma, close quote. Floyd said, comma, sounding guilty. Period, new paragraph, open quote. We didn't have to, comma. Her parents found the body, period. They called it in and the NYPD showed up. Comma, close quote. Dunbar clarified, period, open quote. We didn't have to inform the family like we did with the other 4 girls. Period, close quote in the paragraph. Chase stood in the entrance of DSLH investigations, comma, the door partly open behind her, period, new paragraph, open quote. When the cops went, comma, what did they collect from the scene, question mark. Computer, comma, phone, comma, diary, question mark, close quote in the paragraph, open quote. Computer, comma, yes, comma, as well as some notepads that were in her backpack, period, but no diary and no cell phone, period, close quote in the paragraph, open quote. No cell phone, question mark, close quote. New paragraph. Dunbar shook his head, period, new paragraph, open quote. Couldn't find it, period. Her parents said that the girl had a cell phone, comma, comma, which girl doesn't? Which high school girl doesn't? But they don't know where it is, period, close quote in the paragraph. Something clicked inside of Chase's head, period, new paragraph, open quote. Then we have to find it, period. We have to find it, comma, and see if she got the same message that the other girls got, period, close quote in the paragraph. Dunbar nodded. Period, new paragraph, open quote. I'll call and get the address from dispatch. Period, close quote, in the paragraph, open quote. No need, comma, close quote, Chase said, comma, holding up the folder that she'd scooped up off the desk after putting the images of the girls inside of it. Period, new paragraph. Open quote. Right, period. Do you want to come in my... You want to come in my car, comma, put the cherry on, question mark, close quote in the paragraph. Chase shook her head, period, new paragraph, open quote. No, comma, I'll ride in mine with Floyd, period. Close quote. Ride in mine. New paragraph. Open quote. What about Screech, question mark. What about DSLH, question mark, close quote. Floyd asked, period, new paragraph. Chase looked around, comma, at the setting sun, comma, and then at her watch, period, new paragraph. They'd spent much more time looking at the photographs and discussing what might have happened to the girls than she'd planned, and was surprised to see that it was coming up on 3 in the afternoon, period, new paragraph. Screech said that he would be here around 5, comma, but there was no way that she was going to wait around, period, new paragraph, open quote. That long, period, new paragraph, open quote. I'll catch him when we get back, period, close quote, new paragraph. She said as she stepped out into the onto the sidewalk, period. Dunbar and Floyd quickly followed her out, period, new paragraph, open quote. What about locking the door, question mark, close quote, new paragraph. Chase leaned back and peered up at the building, period, new paragraph. Open quote. Someone's going to rob a PI firm, question mark, I don't think so, period, close quote in the paragraph. Rather than wait for a response out of either Floyd or Dunbar, comma, she hurried over to a BMW and opened the door, period. Just as she was about to slide behind the wheel, comma, she saw once again the detective's phone ringing. She was once again interrupted by the sound of a phone buzzing, period, new paragraph. She instinctively checked hers, comma, wondering if it were Louisa, comma, reporting that something had happened to Georgina, comma, that one of the girls had teased her. Boys had teased her. Or that she'd gotten into that they told her about her mother and her father, period to paragraph. But it wasn't Chase's phone, comma. It was Dunbar's, period to paragraph. The man pulled his cell phone out of his pocket and then turned his back to them and spoke again, as he'd done moments earlier inside when the cell... when one of his tech guys had called with the information from the cell phone companies, period and paragraph. This time, comma, Dunbar's tone was clipped and curt, period and paragraph. Chase waited with one foot inside the car until the detective turned back to her, comma, lowering the phone from his ear and pressing it up against his chest, period and paragraph. Open quote. Talk screen came back. From the four girls in the subway station, comma, close quote, he began, period. The expression on his face and the tone that he used suggested that this was going to be as useful as the information that they'd garnered from the cell phone companies, period to paragraph. And Dunbar didn't disappoint, period to paragraph, open quote. Negative, period. No trace amounts of opioids or THC, comma, or alcohol, period. The only thing they found was caffeine, period, close quote, into paragraph, open quote. Was that a full tox? Question mark, close quote, into paragraph, open quote. Full tox, period. I told them to run every panel, comma. Open quote. What about Sky Derringer? Question mark, close quote, in the paragraph, open quote. Not done yet, comma, but I suspect that it's going to be the same. Semicolon, negative, period, close quote, in the paragraph, open quote. Shit, comma, close quote, Chase swore, period, the paragraph. When she'd first heard about... The fuck? When she first heard about the case on the news, comma, even before Floyd had called her and asked her to join for her help, comma, Chase had assumed that this was a simple suicide, comma, as simple as suicides got, period to paragraph. When Sky Derringer had committed suicide, comma, she'd begun to change her mind, period to paragraph. And now that they had no evidence That, comma, coupled with the fact that the girls weren't on any sort of drugs, comma, there was no evidence that they'd lived anything but normal, full lives, comma, and the deleted cell phone messages, comma, suggested that they were dealing with something more sinister, period to paragraph. The problem was, comma, despite these thoughts, comma, they were no closer to finding out why the girls had done what they'd done, period to paragraph. Chase closed her eyes for a moment, comma, trying to think back to stepping into the subway station, period to paragraph. She tried to imagine herself walking down the steps, comma, as the girls had done 48 hours ago, period to paragraph. She tried to imagine herself motivated to commit suicide, period to paragraph. But she couldn't do it, period. She wasn't sure if it was because her voodoo was gone, comma, or the fact that the only thing she could picture herself doing to commit suicide was injecting a needle into her arm and popping herself with a hot dose, period to paragraph. Something that she'd tried on numerous occasions in the past, period to paragraph. Herself with a hot dose. Open quote, Chase, question mark, close quote, in the paragraph. Open quote. She replied, comma, opening her eyes, period, into paragraph. If only Stitz was here, comma. If Stitz were here, comma, he'd be able to tell me what I'm doing wrong, comma, how to get it back, period. How to put myself in their shoes like I'd done in Alaska, comma, in Boston, comma, in Chicago, comma, in M dash, close quote, into paragraph. Open quote. I gotta go, comma, close quote. Dunbar said unexpectedly, period. New paragraph, open quote. Open quote. Floyd and Chase just looked at the man, comma, silently encouraging him to continue, period, open quote. Him. There was something about their hair. Period, close quote, in a paragraph, open quote. What? Question mark, close quote, in a paragraph, open quote. The text said something about their hair, period, about the hair dye they use, period. I have no fucking idea, comma, but he said he couldn't explain over the phone, period. I gotta head back to the morgue, comma, figure out what the hell he's talking about, period. You guys okay to go speak to... Sky Derringer's parents alone, question mark. Find that damn cell phone, question mark, close quote, in a paragraph. Chase nodded, period, in paragraph, open quote. Of course, comma, close quote. Open quote. No, comma, we need the big strong man to help us go talk to their parents, comma, close quote. Chase said sarcastically, period, in paragraph. Dunbar frowned, period, into paragraph, open quote. It's just because, comma, last time, M dash, close quote, into paragraph, open quote. Go find out what's wrong with the hair, comma, close quote. Chase ordered, period, open quote. I'm going to find that fucking cell phone, period. Floyd, comma, get in the car, period, close quote. All right, a little bit of the old Chase coming back. She doesn't like being told by men what to do. She doesn't like being mansplained or treated like they're the only ones who know what they're doing or that they have to always protect her. That's one of Chase's main traits. Not only does she not like it, she fucking tells it the way it is, too. She tells them, hey, listen, I can do this. You don't need to hold my hand. Papi, you don't need to hold my hand. Yeah, so there's a little hint of what's going to happen. There is something to do with their hair that's going to come up, and then now they got to go find that cell phone. No. All right, guys, we'll keep going. Do a couple more chapters. Man, it feels today like I've been live for hours. It's only an hour and a half. No, hour 40. I was hoping to get the this part 2 done today, but that's just not gonna happen. There's no way. I was hoping to get it done this week for sure. Also not gonna happen. But we're still gonna put words on the page. Man, Instagram's blowing up. Down. Uh-huh. I think we need to change the color here for a mood boost. A little Canada Day action. Wow, that's weird. I don't know why it shows up like pink there. It's actually red and white. Okay, here we go. Let's do another couple chapters here, guys. Chapter 29, new paragraph. Open quote. Have you ... Have you spoken to Stitz at all? Question mark, close quote. Chase asked as she pulled out of the DSLH investigations parking lot. Period to paragraph. Open quote. Something I took a mental break there because I'm thinking about something. I have this idea of how to incorporate one of my other characters into a Chase book. And I really want to do it. I'm just trying to figure out a way in my brain. I'm not going to spoil it for you, but one of the newer additions to what I call Drake's world, is going to come into Chase's book. He came by not too long ago, to Quantico, close quote. Floyd replied, period to paragraph. Chase Knew not to sound too eager, too desperate, but the truth was, she hadn't seen the man since she delivered the dog to him in the hospital room as he was recovering from being shot in Albuquerque, period, new paragraph. She missed him, period. Sure, there had been one hell of a rocky time after she'd made the mistake of sleeping with him, something she took all on herself, even though it was most definitely a shared act, period, new paragraph. The real problem she had is that even though Chase was cognizant to understand was cognizant of this realization, she hadn't picked up the phone to call him, period. After she had left the FBI, Stitz had contacted her on several occasions, or at least tried to, period, to paragraph. He'd left her half a dozen messages, and more than twice as many unanswered texts, period, to paragraph. But as was the case with all relationships, you could only feed so much. One side could only put in so much effort before they eventually stopped trying, period, to paragraph. That's something that Chase had come to realize through her friendship with Louisa and the teachings at the psychiatric facility, period, to paragraph. Both parties need to put effort into a relationship for it to work, period, to paragraph. A relationship for it to work, period, new paragraph. Open quote. Yeah? Question mark. Is he thinking about joining again? Question mark, close quote, new paragraph. Floyd surprised Chase by laughing then, period. It wasn't a full-bellied laugh, more like a chuckle, and she looked over at him, a confused look on her face, period, new paragraph, open quote. Floyd's expression immediately hardened, period, new paragraph, open quote. You know, I called you, because I needed your help, needed your help, period, close quote, new paragraph, open quote. Let me guess, you didn't call Stitz, question mark, close quote, new paragraph, open quote. I didn't call Stitz, close quote. Floyd confirmed, period, open quote. Not that he couldn't help me, because listen, Chase, I'm way over my head here, but there's just no chance he would show, period, close quote, in a paragraph. The non-spoken implication here was that he suspected that Chase would be likely to return, period, to paragraph. You could take a girl out of the FBI, but you couldn't take FBI out of the girl, she thought incoherently, period, to paragraph, open quote. He's never coming back, is he, question mark, close quote, in a paragraph. Chase turned. Her iPhone chirped out new instructions. Instructed her to turn left, and Chase obliged, period, to paragraph, open quote. Well, he's not coming back to active duty, that's sure. The fuck, man? Dragon is having a tough time today. Yesterday, Dragon was really good. Today, Dragon is really bad. And I'm not really sure why. Like, nothing changed from yesterday. Am I too close? Am I too far? Is this like Goldilocks? I got to be somewhere in the middle here. Come on. From the side? Dragon, you're ruining my vibe here. It's Friday. Good vibes. Let's go. Open quote. Open quote. Not to active duty, comma, no chance, period. What happened? Dot dot dot. Well, comma. Let's just say I don't think he's ever coming back to active duty, period. Close quote in the paragraph. Open quote. What was he doing there then, Floyd? Question mark. Just visiting? Question mark. Close quote in the paragraph. When Floyd didn't answer right away, comma, Chase turned to look at him and saw that he was chewing the inside of his cheek and avoiding eye contact, period, in the paragraph. Open quote. It's okay, comma. I don't even work for the FBI, comma. At least not anymore, period. Close quote in the paragraph. Eventually, comma, Floyd broke, period, in the paragraph, open quote. Teaching, comma, close quote. He said simply, period, in the paragraph. Open quote. Teaching? Question mark, close quote in the paragraph. Floyd looked at her and nodded, period, in the paragraph, open quote. Yeah, comma. Director Hampton was... Director Hampton was... Director Hampton was asking him if he wanted to come and teach, comma, some of the new recruits, period. Tell them about how to analyze a crime scene, period, close quote in the paragraph. How to use their voodoo, comma, Chase thought, period, in the paragraph. She wasn't surprised, comma, not really, period, in the paragraph. After all, comma, Stitz had been the one who had introduced her to the FBI, comma, the one who had taught her pretty much everything she knows. Period in the paragraph, open quote. She turned her eyes front and center, period in the paragraph. Open quote. He'd be a good teacher, comma, close quote. She said almost solemnly, period in the paragraph. The interior of her BMW fell silent again, comma, which was only broken by another directions from her cell phone, period. She made a right this time, comma, and then she was told that they were approaching their destination, period, in the paragraph. Eventually, comma, she pulled up outside of a curb. Up to a curb outside of a narrow shoebox of a house that was covered in white shiplap. Period. She double-checked the address from the file, comma, and then looked at the number on the door, period, in the paragraph, open quote. This is it, comma, close quote, she said, comma, starting out of her vehicle, period. She stopped halfway when she realized that Floyd wasn't following, period, in the paragraph. Instead, comma, the man was sitting with his hands in his lap, comma, his fingers interlaced, comma. Clearly, no intention of getting out of the car, period, in the paragraph. Not yet, comma, anyways, period, in the paragraph, open quote. Floyd, comma, we need to find that cell phone. Period, close quote in the paragraph, open quote. I know, comma, close quote, the man said softly, period, open quote. I know, period, close quote in the paragraph. Chase sighed, period, in the paragraph. They didn't have time with this, comma, but she knew that she couldn't bully the man, comma, either, period, in the paragraph. He didn't deserve that, period, in the paragraph. Open quote. I'll do all the talking, period, in the paragraph. You just follow my lead, comma, all right? Question mark, close quote. New paragraph. Floyd nodded, comma, but he still didn't move, period, new paragraph, open quote. Floyd, comma, close quote, she said, comma, a little more sternly this time, period. As she uttered the man's name, she reached inside the vehicle and gripped his shoulder tightly, period, new paragraph. He turned to look at her, comma, and she was startled to find that the man had tears in his eyes, period, new paragraph. Maybe he really isn't cut out for this gig, comma, she thought, period, new paragraph. But whether or not that was true, comma, was not for her to decide, period, nor was it something that she would bring up right now, period, new paragraph. Right now, comma, they had to figure out why 5 girls committed suicide for no apparent reason, period, new paragraph. Open quote. You'll be all right, comma, close quote, she said, period, open quote. Just follow my lead, comma, do as I do, period. I'll do the talking, period, close quote, in the paragraph. The man's eyes. He looked at her then, comma, and she saw just how desperate he was, period, in paragraph, open quote. Come on, comma, Floyd, period. Let's go, period, close quote, in a paragraph. With that, comma, she let go of him, got out of the car, and closed the door, period, in a paragraph. She started toward the walkway. Up the walkway toward the house, comma. Determined to find the damn cell phone, either with Floyd or without him, period, in a paragraph. She was happy to. A few seconds later, comma, she heard the man's shuffling footsteps behind her, and despite everything, comma, a small smile crept on Chase's face, period. All right, I don't really know why Dragon was terrible to start that section and then got really good at the end. I think maybe I was speaking too closely. I'm not really sure. It's a finicky program. I wanted to bring up Stitz a little bit. I don't want to forget about Stitz. I also laid that little egg there, the little nest egg, Easter egg, let's say. For you guys who joined me a while back, I think I let the cat out of the bag when I mentioned that Stitz is going to have his own series and he's going to be in a teaching role. So that is kind of where this is going to stem from. I don't think Stitz is going to appear at all in this book. I debated having him like called in as a consultant, but to me it was just too much of a, it was too forced. Stitz left, Chase left, Floyd stayed back. Floyd needs help. He calls Chase for the reasons I just mentioned, and Chase joins up. I think then for her to call Stitz back is just too much of a, it's too contrived. I'm sure though in the future in a later book that Chase and Stitz are going to reunite. I love doing that sort of thing. I've done it with, actually, you know what? One of the things that took the most, I resisted for a long time, is that after Chase left Drake's series, I didn't have them reconvene for a while. I think it was really like Painted Ladies in Chase's series that's the first time that they really came back together and worked. It's one of my favorite books for sure. I really liked how that whole Dr. Mark Kruk thing started in obviously Butterfly Kisses, and then you know he left and he kind of was always there. He'd pop up and you know he escaped, that sort of thing. And then the conclusion of that story was done in Painted Ladies. That was a deliberate decision that I made. I really wanted that character to extend into Chase's series, and so it's a Chase book. It was kind of complicated though, because I mentioned this yesterday. I want, in a perfect world, you guys would read all the books in the exact order that I told you, that you know, the chronological order that I put on the Facebook page, and then you would be caught up with everything. But not everyone does that. I get it. That's just the reality. Chase sells way more. So I needed to write that book. That was very difficult for me because I had to write it in a way that wouldn't, again, rewrite Butterfly Kisses. I didn't want to do that. I think that's both cheap, like cheap in terms of like a trick to like just artificially fatten that book. and I didn't want to bore readers who had read both. So there's really a fine line there of how much backstory you put in. And then when it comes to Drake's story, I have to mention that, the events from that. I think I did a really good job of that, though. I think it worked out perfectly because the next Drake book, that's I think it's almost infamous, where he talks about that and how he got out of prison again because he was once again thrown in jail and that sort of thing. So that makes it very difficult when you have multiple characters and storylines that bridge different series. You have to be cognizant of the fact that maybe not everyone's going to read all the series, but also you don't want to just basically insert the entire other book, Butterfly. Maybe that's why Dragon can't understand me, can't even speak. Butterfly Kisses to another book. But yeah, as I'm writing with you guys now, my brain is still working, and that's why sometimes I just stop for a long period of time. Because I've said this multiple occasions, I don't like to stop. I don't like to really think too closely. Actually, to be honest with you, because I'm live streaming it, I'm a little bit more conscious about what I'm saying. So I'm thinking about some of the words that I'm using. Whereas if I were doing this on my own, I might not be so picky. Like I might just blast through a paragraph that I know sounds like a squirrel wrote it or something, or some monkey hammer away on the keyboard, because I won't really care. I'll try to get to the end. But now I'm a little bit more cognizant of the fact that I'm trying to keep you guys entertained as well. And so I don't want to be completely nonsensical, although sometimes it degenerates into that. But the other times that I'm speaking and I stop for a while, it's because I have this other idea of what I want to include, and something that I'm currently writing triggered it. But yeah, like that's often happening in the background anyways. But when I really am contemplating something, then that's when I stop. And in this case, it has to do with that other character that I mentioned last break. And I thought about a perfect way of doing it. And again, right now, right there, you see that little mini seizure that I had? That's me thinking about how I'm really going to do it. So that's a little insight into my twisted mind. Still thinking about it. It's going to be cool, though. I dig it. So my plan, to keep you guys up to speed, because I'm enjoying this little break here, my plan is for the next few chapters, which I will do today, is the following. So now we got to Sky Derringer's house. Chase promised to not leave Floyd in the lurch. So what's going to happen is that Chase is going to go into the house. It's going to start off like, she's boss lady, though she's going to be a little bit empathetic. She's going to, again, think about Stitz and how Stitz usually played that role. Floyd is going to do fucking nothing because he's useless right now. And so she's going to speak to the parents, and then she's going to go into her voodoo and try to find the phone. And she's going to leave Floyd there by himself. She unfortunately is not going to find the phone, and Floyd's going to be fucking pissed at her. But she is going to have an idea of who might have the phone, and she's going to go and recover the phone. Then she's going to meet up with Dunbar, and Dunbar's going to talk about this weird hair thing. And they're going to find out what was on that phone. Yeah. So those are the next 4 or 5 chapters, something like that. All right. I'll be right back. Drank my water too quickly, so give me 1 second. Chapter 30, new paragraph. It was clear that neither Mr. or Mrs. nor Mrs. Derringer had gotten any sleep since her daughter had committed suicide, period. The latter was dressed in a white t-shirt and maroon jogging pants, period. Her short blonde hair was pulled up into a loose ponytail, comma, but she was wearing no makeup, period. Her cheeks were soggy from tears, period, paragraph. Likewise, comma, Mr. Derringer was wearing track pants, comma, and his heavily lined face was reminded Chase of her hands after she spent too long in the tub, period, new paragraph. Open quote. You're ... with the FBI? Question mark, close quote. Mr. Derringer asked, period. The quality of his voice matching his appearance, period, new paragraph. Open quote. Agent Chase Adams, comma, close quote. Chase confirmed, period, open quote. I'm hoping I can ask you a few questions, period. We just want to understand why your daughter might have done this, period, close quote, new paragraph. The woman suddenly burst into a sob, comma, and Mr. Derringer pulled him close to his chest, period, new paragraph, open quote. That's all we want, comma, that's all we want to do, period, close quote, new paragraph, open quote. Do you mind inviting us in? Do you mind if we come in? Question mark, close quote, in the paragraph. The man shook his head and then guided his wife backward away from the entrance, period, of paragraph. Chase stepped inside, comma. Her eyes immediately adjusting to the and looked around, period, of paragraph. It was a modest entrance, comma. Typical of pretty much every one that strangely reminded her of the where she used to live, ... when her husband Brad and Felix had also lived with her, period, of paragraph. An unexpected wave of guilt passed over her then, comma, but she quickly squashed it before it took hold, period, of paragraph. This isn't about you, comma, Chase, period. This is about Sky and her friends, period, of paragraph, open quote. And we also want to find her cell phone, period. Any idea where that might be? Question mark, close quote, in the paragraph. Behind her, comma, Chase heard Floyd step into the house and slowly close the door, period, of paragraph. Mrs. Derringer shook her head and answered, period, of paragraph, open quote. We have no idea, period. We've been looking the whole time. Like we told the police when they came, comma. We know she had it here, comma, but we don't know where it is, period. Close quote in the paragraph, open quote. I've been looking for it ever since. dot dot dot. Well, ever since it happened, comma, close quote. Mr. Derringer added, period. New paragraph, open quote. When's the last time you've saw the phone? Question mark, close quote. New paragraph, open quote. She was using it last night, period. Open quote. Did anything happen last night? Question mark. Was she upset at all? Question mark. Seemed different? Question mark, close quote in the paragraph. Chase was cognizant of the fact that these questions had probably been asked of these parents a dozen times already, comma, but she wanted to see their reaction, period, in the paragraph. She knew that the number one, despite their obvious grief, comma, Chase wasn't about to rule out the possibility that her parents were involved, comma, if not overtly, comma, had done something to their daughter to make her take her own life, period, into paragraph, open quote. She seemed fine, comma, and then this. Mr. Derringer informed her, period, into paragraph. Was that a hint of defensiveness? Question mark, new paragraph, open quote. And she didn't go to school today. Period. Why didn't she go to school with her friends? Question mark, close quote, new paragraph. Another saw about a Mrs. Derringer, comma, but this time it sounded forced to Chase's ears, period, new paragraph, open quote. She said she wasn't feeling well, period. I think it was ... woman problems, period, close quote, new paragraph. Chase frowned, period, new paragraph. Woman problems, period. She was on her fucking rag, comma, and the man's daughter committed suicide, comma, and yet he still couldn't bring himself to say that she was on her period, period, new paragraph, open quote. It was that time of the month, comma, close quote. Mrs. Derringer said between gasps, period, new paragraph. More euphemisms, period, new paragraph. The anger that suddenly rose up from the pit of Chase's stomach surprised her, period, new paragraph, open quote. Why don't you tell me what happened then, period, close quote, new paragraph, open quote. We already told the cops, comma, close quote. The man was definitely defensive now, period, new paragraph. Chase tried her best to dampen her accusatory tone, period, new paragraph, open quote. Sky wasn't feeling well, comma. She said she was going to stay home, period. Did you guys stay home? Question mark. Do you both work? Question mark, close quote, new paragraph, open quote. We both went to work, comma. We had no idea that, close quote. Mrs. Derringer melted then, comma. And it seemed as if every orifice on her face started leaking some sort of viscous fluid or another, period, new paragraph. The anger that had started in the pit of Chase's stomach suddenly rose to her face, causing her ears to tingle, period, new paragraph. Without thinking, comma, she pushed by the woman and husband, comma, and started deeper into the house, period, new paragraph, open quote. Chase? Question mark, close quote. She heard Floyd say behind her, period, new paragraph, open quote. Chase didn't answer the man, period. She just had to get away from these grieving parents, period, new paragraph. If it had been her son or daughter who had committed suicide, comma, she wouldn't be sitting there crying, period. She'd be out there, comma. She'd be furious, comma. She'd be out there looking for the reason why, period, new paragraph. These people, ... They just take whatever life gives them, period, new paragraph. Well, that isn't me, comma, Chase thought, period. That's not me at all, period, new paragraph. Seeing red, comma, Chase ignored both Mr. Derringer and Floyd's pleas now, period. Instead, comma, she walked down the... started up the stairs. Toward what she believed to be the bedrooms, period. Somewhere in the back of her mind, she heard... from what sounded like the other end of a long string and can, she heard Floyd say something along the lines of Chase just going to check out the bedroom to see if she could find the cell phone, period, new paragraph. She ignored this too and kept on moving, period, new paragraph. When she reached the top landing, comma, she placed her hand against the wall, comma, and the cool touch of the paint vanquished some of the warmth inside of her, period, new paragraph. Fury. Closing her eyes, comma, she walked down the hall, comma, gently running her fingers along the wall, period, new paragraph. She passed one doorway, comma, but somehow knew that this wasn't Sky's bedroom, period. She passed another and assumed that this was the bathroom, judging on the smell coming from it. Based on the antiseptic odor coming from it, period, new paragraph. Before long, comma, she was in some sort of trance, comma, convinced that she was a 17-year-old girl, comma, popular, comma, pretty, comma, her whole life ahead of her, period, new paragraph. She stopped at the third door, comma, and stepped inside, comma, her eyes still closed, period, new paragraph. She didn't need to feel her way around the space, comma, she instinctively knew what it was, period. There was a desk off to her right, comma, and a bed straight in front, period, new paragraph. The closet, comma, one of those IKEA things that you put together. That came in 17 boxes and contained 250,000 pieces, comma, was towards the back and off to the left, period, paragraph. Chase breathed deeply, taking in the odor of ... nothing, period, paragraph. Her eyes slowly opened, and she was surprised to see that the bedroom was exactly the way she'd envisioned it, period, paragraph. Maybe my voodoo's not gone after all, comma, she thought, period, paragraph. Voodoo is not. New paragraph. Was set up exactly the way she'd envisioned it, period. Maybe. But while all the furniture she'd pictured in the correct location, comma, she hadn't imagined this, period, paragraph. The bed was stripped of sheets, comma. The mattress gone, period. There was a section of carpeting that she could see through the bed frame beneath that had been replaced, period. Whoever done the cleanup had done an adequate job of trying to match the colors exactly to the existing carpet, but Chase could still make out a small seam that gave it away, period of paragraph. Open quote, shit, comma, close quote, she grumbled, period of paragraph. She was hoping that the room would be exactly the way it had been before, comma, that the police had instructed her, Mr. and Mrs. Derringer, to leave it as it was, period of paragraph. But that wouldn't have made sense, period of paragraph, based on everything that she'd heard about the crime scene, comma, all the photos that she'd seen, comma, all of the But Chase knew that this wasn't necessarily the case, period of paragraph. After all, comma, Floyd had given her photographs of the crime scene, comma, and while she'd only looked at them casually, comma, she knew that it was just possible she was remembering those, period. Evidence that had been collected, comma, this was a suicide, period. While the motivation was still a question, comma, there was no doubt that it would have been Sky who had taken the razor to her own wrist, period of paragraph. As such, comma, it didn't warrant an extensive investigation, comma, despite the complications. Maybe if the attending police officers had known that Sky was friends with Madison or the other girls, comma, maybe even if they had put this together right away, they might have preserved the scene, comma, but that wasn't their fault, period of paragraph. Chase knew the stats, period of paragraph. She knew that in New York City alone, comma, roughly XYZ committed suicide each and every day, period of paragraph. Yeah, comma, but rarely are 5 of those high school girls like these, period of paragraph. She shook her head, period of paragraph. And closed her eyes again, period of paragraph. If I were Sky, comma, where would I keep my cell phone? Question mark. If I wanted to hide it from my parents, comma, where would I keep it? Question mark. New paragraph. Chase took 2 additional steps into the room. And suddenly felt an unexpected coolness wash over her, period of paragraph. Chase went with this feeling, comma, imagining herself as but a feather in the wind, comma, allowing it to take her throughout the room, period of paragraph. She used her hands to guide her, comma, and eventually found herself on all fours, period of paragraph. Her fingers stretched underneath the IKEA closet, comma, prodding towards the back, period of paragraph. She touched something hard, comma, but when she tried to grab it, it was just out of reach, period of paragraph. Only then did Chase open her eyes, period of paragraph. Open quote, I'd keep it here, comma, close quote, she whispered, period, open quote, I'd hide it under here, comma, push it to the back, period, close quote, paragraph. Chase looked around briefly, comma, and then took her cell phone out of her pocket and activated the flashlight, period. She placed it on the floor and peered underneath the closet, period to paragraph. There was something there, comma, she realized, period. Something hard and dark, period. But it was too far for her to reach, and the weak light from her cell phone reflected off the underside of the closet, making it impossible to make out exactly what it is, period to paragraph. But Chase knew what that object was, period to paragraph. It was a cell phone, period to paragraph. Her heart rate increasing again, comma, Chase looked around the room. Once more, period to paragraph. If this is where Sky stored her cell phone when she didn't want anybody to see it, comma, she had to have a way of getting it out easily, period to paragraph. But there was no telling But so far as she could see, there was no stick or coat hanger or anything available, period. She went as far to open the closet, comma, but all the coat hangers were the plastic variety that wouldn't reach beneath, period to paragraph. Cursing now, comma, Chase dropped to her stomach and reached with her fingers, comma, pushing her palm deeply into the plush carpeting to extend her hand further, period to paragraph. With a grunt and a groan, comma, she squished her fingers beneath the wooden slot, comma, scraping her knuckles as she did, period to paragraph. Once again, comma, her fingertips brushed up against something hard, comma, but it moved away, period to paragraph. Further away. Chase redoubled her efforts, comma, this time forcing her entire hand beneath, period. The wood pinched tightly against her wrist, comma, but she ignored the pain, period to paragraph. With searching fingers, comma, she eventually grabbed the object, and then, using her other hand to tilt the closet backward just a fraction of an inch, comma, she yanked it free, period to paragraph. The smile that had inadvertently slid onto Chase's face immediately vanished, period to paragraph. It wasn't a cell phone, period. It was nothing like a cell phone, period to paragraph. Chase found herself staring down at a beaded chain with a wooden cross at the end, period to paragraph. More fury came over her then, period to paragraph, open quote. A lot of good this did you, comma, close quote, she grumbled, period to paragraph. Then she thrust it roughly beneath the closet where she found it, period to paragraph. Just as she was rising to her feet and massaging her sore hand and wrist, comma, she heard footsteps approach, period to paragraph. Open quote. Did you find it? Question mark. Did you find the cell phone? Question mark. Close quote. Mr. Derringer demanded, period to paragraph. Chase shook her head, period to paragraph. Mrs. Derringer followed her husband into the room. Unlike Mr. Derringer, comma, Mrs. Derringer stayed out of the room, comma, a deliberate effort, period. Chase tried to meet the woman's eyes, comma, but she refused to look inside, period to paragraph. Open quote. Where would she keep it? Question mark, close quote. She demanded, period to paragraph, open quote. I don't know, comma, close quote. Open quote. In her backpack, comma, does she have a secret storage or anything like that? Question mark, close quote, to paragraph, open quote. The cops took her backpack, period. There are no secret storages here, period. Not that I know of. at least, period, close quote, in the paragraph, open quote. Fuck, comma, close quote, Chase said, period, in the paragraph. The man cringed, comma, and Chase scowled, period, in the paragraph. She looked to Floyd next, comma, but like Mrs. Derringer, comma, she avoided looking into the room, period. Unlike the woman, comma, however, comma, his expression didn't seem saddened, comma, but something else, period, in the paragraph. Angry, period, in the paragraph, open quote. And you're sure it's not here, question mark, close quote, she asked, comma, waving her arms around the small space, period, in the paragraph, open quote. I searched the whole thing. Entire room, period. I took everything down, comma, put everything back, period. It's not here, period, close quote, in the paragraph. Chase looked around, period. She had an impulse to do exactly what Mr. Derringer had just said, colon, tear the entire room apart, comma, bring the entire fucking place down to studs to find the goddamn cell phone, period. But not only was that impractical, comma, but she had an idea that it wasn't here, period, in the paragraph, open quote. Who was in this room, question mark, close quote, she asked suddenly, comma, changing tactics, period, in the paragraph, open quote. The man stammered, period, in the paragraph, open quote. I asked who was in this room, period. Who came into this room ever since? I want to know exactly who has been in this room today, period, close quote, in the paragraph, open quote. It was Mrs. Derringer who found her daughter, comma, close quote, Floyd said, comma, still refusing to meet her eyes, period. New paragraph, open quote. And after that, question mark, did you come in the room? Question mark, new paragraph, open quote. Of course, comma. My wife screamed and I came upstairs, period. I tried to CPR, comma, tried to stop the bleeding, but it was too late, period, close quote, in the paragraph. It was clear that just recounting this tale pushed the man closer to the edge, comma, but Chase needed to know, period, new paragraph, open quote. Who else? Question mark, close quote, new paragraph, open quote. The paramedics, comma, close quote, the man said, now choking back a sob of his own, period, open quote. And then the police officers, period, close quote, in the paragraph. Open quote. Nobody else, question mark, close quote, in the paragraph. The man thought about this for a moment, then shook his head, period, in the paragraph, open quote. Just the police and the paramedics and me and my wife, period. That's it, period. No one else has been in here, period, close quote, in the paragraph. Chase chewed the inside of her lip as she contemplated this, period, in the paragraph. If it's not in this room, comma, then one of you must have it. Period, close quote, in the paragraph. Open quote. The cleanup guys. Period, close quote, in the paragraph. The voice that spoke was so soft that Chase initially didn't hear exactly, didn't make out the exact words, period, paragraph, open quote. What was that? Question mark, close quote. Open quote. What was that? Question mark, close quote, she demanded, comma, leaning out towards the hallway where Mrs. Derringer stood with her back against the wall, period, paragraph. The woman's eyes were closed, comma, her hands at her side, comma, shaking, period, paragraph, open quote. The cleanup guys were here. Period, close quote. The woman's. New paragraph. Chase glared at Mr. Derringer, then, period, new paragraph, open quote. Yeah, comma, we couldn't stand to look at it, and the smell, dot, 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 close quote, new paragraph. There was a retort on Chase's tongue, comma, a scathing barb that most definitely would push Mr. Derringer over the edge and likely get her and Floyd thrown out despite their FBI credentials, period, in paragraph. She barely, just barely, held it back, period, in paragraph, open quote. Who are the cleanup guys, question mark. Who cleaned up this room, question mark, close quote, in paragraph. The man suddenly fumbled with his back. Man's hand reached for his back pocket, comma, and out of the corner of her eye, comma, she saw Floyd take a protective and I'm gonna lose a fucking gasket like Mr. Derringer. Please, dragon. And out of the corner of her eye, comma, she saw Floyd take a protective step towards Chase, period, new paragraph. But the man was only reaching for his wallet, period. He held it out in front of him, opened it up, and pulled out a business card, period, new paragraph. Chase snapped it from him, period, new paragraph. Him. She looked it over briefly, comma, and then let her eyes rise to meet Floyd's. And then raised her gaze to meet Mr. Derringer's, period, to paragraph up a quote. Well, it looks like I'm just going to have to pay this wild cleanup a visit, comma, close quote. She spat, period. All right. Oh, we got a little kiss girl there. No, that was great, guys. That was super fun. I enjoyed that chapter. Yeah, and that's the character that I want to bring into the story, although in a very minor role. I want to bring in Wild Cleanup. Just makes sense, right? Like he's cleanup, and based on what happened in the third Tommy Wild book, which you haven't read yet because it's not out. He has a little spoiler alert here. He does a lot, let's just say a lot of the cleanup for the NYPD. So he definitely is going to come into play. Chase is going to visit him, and they're going to find that fucking cell phone. A lot longer than I thought that chapter was going to be. But I also wanted to, again, have Chase, like, try her voodoo technique, only for it not to work. So that's kind of what I was going for there. Listen, I have had a great time hanging out with you guys. Let's do a quick little word count. Let's see what we got today. There you go, 5,000 words. So not by any stretch my most productive day, but I mean I spent an hour chatting with you guys beforehand, which is always one of my favorite parts of these streams. I hope you had a good time hanging out. I wish you the best weekend you could have. Have a good time. I might be on tomorrow. No promises, but I might be on tomorrow to get going on this book. Keep it going. I'm gonna make a few notes off stream. I know I said I wouldn't do this sort of thing, but I want to make a couple points just so I don't forget. What happens is I throw in little Easter eggs, and I'll give you a spoiler here. So that cross is going to be important, but I throw them in, and the characters don't really take note of them. But then I always wanted to have it come up later, and for them to say, "Oh shit," like, "Oh, that's why that item was there." I don't like to do just. I prefer to do like I just described. So that cross she found, she thinks it's nothing. She throws it back, but then it's going to come into play later. So I like to have these little Easter eggs along the way. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to make a note of that. Actually, you know what? I won't do it off screen. I'll do it now. So I'll go back, and this is kind of what I do. I just put a separate chapter in. Okay, so that's an example of something that that's all I need to note here, and I know exactly what I mean. Can't spell at all. There you go. So that's exactly what I'll know by reading this prompt, which says the cross. Chase remembers the cross. She asks Sky's parents if they're religious, and they say no. So that's gonna be very important, and so I'm keeping that there. And that's kind of a little note. I need to remember that, so that even on this first draft, or maybe even on the editing process, I'll put that in. I'll put an explanation for that. Listen. Oh, okay. Ashley says I'm golfing tomorrow. Okay, maybe golfing tomorrow. Maybe I'll come on in the hour in the afternoon or in the morning. If not, I'll definitely see you next week. Listen, guys, I know it must be frustrating for you to when I say I'm going on every day at 10 and I don't show up, and I'm usually late. Okay, and so sometimes pet days, life, kids get in the way. I love doing this with you. They're my priority. However, that being said, I'm going to make a concerted effort to do it more frequently at the time I say. So 10 o'clock, weekdays. I hope to see you here. Come back with your best podcast suggestions. We can chat about what you're watching, what you're reading. It's always a good time. And then you can get some spoilers for my next book. Take care, guys. Hope you have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy yourselves and be safe.